President Biden may skip a planned visit to Poland to mark 1 year since Russia invaded Ukraine. Listen.
Do you believe for Poland, and is there any possibility that you could go into Ukraine as well?
I haven't made a decision when I'm going to Poland, or even if for certain I'm going to Poland.
Is there any possibility?
There's a possibility I may go to Poland, but that's all.
Joining me now, former CIA Chief of Russia Analysis, former Special Advisor to VP Cheney on Russia and Quincy Institute Director of Grand Strategy, George Beebe. George, good morning to you, and thank you so much for being here. So President Biden hinting that if he does visit Poland, he will not cross the border into Ukraine. He hasn't visited the country just yet, despite Ukrainian President Zelensky's repeated requests. I'm wondering what you think about this right now, because I'm also looking at his relations with Russia and Vladimir Putin. This is part of a larger narrative of how he deals with his foreign policy issues.
Yeah, indeed it is. And my guess is that President Biden is weighing a couple of things here. One is simply security. How safe is it for him to be possibly moving into a war zone to visit Ukraine? My guess is that his advisors are cautioning against that just from the point of view of physical risk. The other question is political risk, and that may be why he's temporizing over whether to go to Poland right now. Zelensky has been on a tour of European capitals, essentially putting a full-court press on to get F-16 fighter aircraft or other kinds of advanced fighter aircraft from the West. And it may be that President Biden doesn't want to put himself in a situation right now where he's forced to make a public decision on that.
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. Meantime, a bombshell report claiming specialized U.S. Navy diving teams in September, under the cover of a NATO maritime exercise, laid bombs and destroyed the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. That pipeline was built to carry natural gas from Russia to Europe. Now, a Pentagon spokesperson telling Fox News, quote, the U.S. was not involved in the Nord Stream explosion. But here's what President Biden had to say ahead of Russia's invasion of Ukraine last year.
If Russia invades, that means tanks or troops crossing the border of Ukraine again. Then there will be no longer a Nord Stream 2. We will bring an end to it.
How will you do that exactly, since the project and control of the project is within Germany's control?
We will. I promise you, we'll be able to do it.
The Kremlin saying yesterday that the world should know the truth about who sabotaged the pipeline and that those responsible should be punished. George, your thoughts?
Well, this is a very strange story. When these explosions occurred last September, the line in Western media immediately became, well, Russia blew up its own pipeline. But then a number of very strange things started to happen. The Russians almost immediately began trying to repair the pipeline, and that's not something they would likely do if they had blown it up themselves. Then the Germans reported from their investigation that it didn't look to them like Russia was responsible for this. And then the Washington Post reported in December that, based on interviewing dozens of Western officials, no evidence of Russian involvement had come to light. So now we have this new report from an award-winning investigative journalist describing exactly how the United States blew up this pipeline. And the question really becomes, okay, so what happened here? The mainstream media is essentially saying, well, you're not supposed to ask that question. The American people should mind their own business. Leave this to the experts. Don't investigate. Nothing to see here. And I don't think that's the way this ought to be addressed. I think this is something that Congress needs to investigate. These are very serious allegations. They have very serious implications, and they deserve, I think, a very serious investigation.
We'll add it to the long list of investigations that Congress has to do. But, George, let me ask you, because you mentioned it before, Ukraine renewing its calls for fighter jets and long-range missiles following more Russian attacks today on the country's power grid. So Zelensky is taking his campaign for more military aid to a summit of EU leaders. He did that yesterday. Meanwhile, in the United States, here at home, Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz introduced a bill calling on the Biden administration to end U.S. aid to Ukraine while also urging for a swift peace agreement. George, there are two schools of thought on this. Obviously, those who say we have to help Ukraine as much as possible, that it's a fight for democracy and we're part of it. And there are others that are saying we're in tough times here at home and we can't afford to fight other people's battles at the moment.
Well, I think what we need here is a plan. How does this war end? That's something that the Biden administration has been quite reluctant to articulate. And if they're going to be turning to Congress repeatedly saying we need to provide more and more aid to Ukraine, more and more weapons capabilities, and in so doing, potentially raise the risks of a direct military confrontation between the United States and Russia, the world's two largest nuclear powers, then how does all this fit together? How does the plan for arming Ukraine lead to resolution of this conflict? And if the plan is that Ukraine wins outright, how do we do that without winding up in a direct military confrontation with Russia?
Yeah.
These are things that I think the Biden administration has got to answer.
All good questions. George Beebe, great to see you this morning. We'll have you back soon.
Thank you.